correction officers, especially those with additional language skills, please contact them directly. They are still recruiting. Their contact information is on the bulletin board behind the screen.
It's also part of the agenda.
Okay. The candidates know the rules. We will have some interaction, but please, we want a civil discussion. So let us begin. Each candidate will have 5 minutes to make an introductory statement. Mark, do you want to make an announcement?
No, I think we should the sheriff's department.
We
Okay.
follow.
Thank you.
Okay. And the candidates drew numbers, and Mr. Rivera will be first. Would you please start your opening statement? Please stand up. Or you can come to the podium.
Thanks, Olga. Good evening. My name is Robert Rivera, and I had the luck of picking number 1, so that's great. I'm not a public speaker, but what I'd like to do is a moment of silence for those people that lost their lives last week at the Navy Yard. So if you please join me with that. I'd really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Being a DoD civilian myself, I know the importance and the vulnerability of each and every facility, installation, and even those in the private sector, especially like what occurred just recently in the African nations. But one of the key things that I bring as a candidate for the position of sheriff is experience not only previously with the Sheriff's Department of Arlington County. I'm paramilitary Army. For those of you that aren't Army, please don't hold that against me. 3 years active, 3 years National Guard. I've been a DoD civilian since for 11 years now. I'm a security specialist. I've worked with the Pentagon Force Protection Agency, which definitely provided me a lot of experience, not only in the security field, the contracting field, emergency management. Obviously, what happened last week would kind of fall under all of those realms, really, physical security and emergency management. I also gained a lot of experience in the contracting arena as well. Do I have anybody that speaks Spanish that needs a little bit of translation? Because if so, please identify yourself, because I am bilingual as well. Diversity is key in a department, and that is one of the things that, because of my cultural background and diverse background, are some of the things that I bring to any organization. Having lived overseas, I've learned to assimilate into various cultures, not only in the Hispanic, but also the Korean and in the Afghan. As a DoD civilian, I volunteered to go to the civilian expeditionary workforce, which means I went to Afghanistan on a voluntary basis as a civilian, which was an option that takes a lot of backbone in my book, and I think anybody else's book to do that. The position that I assumed there was that of Provost Marshal, Deputy Provost Marshal for all of the U.S. forces in Afghanistan. The entire budget overseen there was over $175 million, and I was responsible for those of you who don't know what Provost Marshal does, it's basically like the second top cop in the country. And so that was my duty and responsibility there. A lot of interaction that I also had was with the a lot of interaction was with NATO partners as well in Kabul, which was key. Being able to operate on a common picture, yet coming from various backgrounds, and obviously that is a key factor here as a sheriff, interacting with various jurisdictions, not only in the law enforcement realm, but also in the non-law enforcement realm as well. Focus that I will have is on the emphasis on families, that not only that of the deputy sheriffs, which is key, but also that of inmates as well. Trying to work on mentoring programs. I'm sorry if I get distracted every once in a while, I want to talk you away. But mentoring programs for the inmates that might be released shortly thereafter, probably more than likely on the first-time offenders. It's something that I've already started working with communities of faith, and obviously I would have to enhance that with the OAR, which is the Offender Aid Restoration. That is an organization that supports the detention facilities as well. With those things, coupled with my focus also on trying to work on mentoring of children of the inmates as well, in order to break the cyclical recidivity. Yes, sorry, I'm very distracted. Because if not, that impacts tremendously. Just in a study in 2010, it said that the total cost for federal and local prisons was about $800 million. Total cost for inmates, last study that was done, was about $25,000 per year per inmate. So with that said, if we continue down that pace, the answer is obviously not to continuously build more detention facilities, because that's an economic burden on the taxpayers as well. Reducing recidivity also it reduces the impact on the taxpayers as well. So there's multiple factors here as a sheriff to be able to focus on and work on. Obviously, simultaneous within the time frame that I'll. Okay. Again, I'm Robert Rivera. I don't come in a fancy truck. I don't come in with anything else. I come in a 2009 minivan, and I'm one of you. I'm a citizen of Fairfax who sees an opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
May I stand in front here? Thank you. I can see the copy here.
Okay. We're trying to make sure that it doesn't go off.
Okay.
Because what's happening is it goes to sleep.
I'm sorry. Oh, okay. I'm just going to stand right here. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming. I don't like standing behind podiums. I like to be able to look at you eye to eye. And I promise you I probably will. You need me to speak louder, ma'am?
Microphone.
Okay. We
There's
have
a
one.
microphone over here.
There is a microphone over there?
There is no microphone.
Okay.
That's all right.
All right. I'm sorry. I'm running for sheriff. My name is Brian Wolf. I first want to tell you who I am first before what I've done. I'm a county resident. I'm a county resident since 3rd grade. I've gone to school since 3rd grade in Fairfax County Schools. My wife is a county resident. She went to school for 12 years. I'm a family man. I'm a dad. I'm a Fairfax County dad. I think a lot of things that resonate with politicians and community members, the community is that once we find out that a politician wants to go ahead and run for office, that if they have a connection to the community, we automatically draw to that candidate. And I think that's apparent in almost every election. I am that person. I am a community servant for Fairfax County. I'm a community dad, and I'm a community husband. Early on in my life, I was raised by one parent. My mother is the one that raised me. She raised 4 kids on a salary of $2.10 an hour. That's what was her minimum wage back then. She raised 3 boys and 1 daughter. And we made it. And we've all been successful. Today is a victory for me today just to stand in front of you. This is my first debate. And I want to thank both candidates for showing up for today. What I did back in my early life is I worked in the businesses in Fairfax City. I washed dishes. I got promoted one time after washing dishes for 4 years. I got promoted to be a maid at the Patton Motor Hotel in Fairfax City. I wasn't scared of work. I delivered newspapers early in the morning before school. After school, my brother and I, we drove to Springfield Mall, where we washed dishes for Pharaoh's Ice Cream. Then I moved over to Chesapeake Bay Seafood House in Fairfax City. I'm not afraid of work. But you know what? We couldn't help our mom enough. And when my brothers and I decided we need to relieve my mother of a little bit of the strain on her financial ability, we both went into the service. He went into the Army and I went into the Air Force. I was successful in the Air Force. I was a military police officer. My dream job. I wanted to be a Fairfax County officer in my own jurisdiction. I wanted to live in my jurisdiction. I've always felt Fairfax is my home. I moved around the entire world with my father as a military brat. His last base was here in 1973. Since then, I've been here, except when I served in the Air Force. I moved to Warren one time, early in the 80s, because I couldn't afford Fairfax County housing. I went to Front Royal, but other than that, 8 years in Front Royal, the rest of it's been here. I entered the police department right after I got out of the Air Force in 1986. And I retired in 2011. I've received several awards, including Police Officer of the Year twice. And I also have received 130 written accommodations for distinguished service. I was a sergeant in almost every capacity of the police department. I was on the honor guard. I was on EST. I was a sniper. I served under four chiefs who had different styles of contemporary type of leadership. I was exposed to 5 different exposures, or excuse me, 4. Actually, it was 5, because I did work for Fairfax County for 3 years in their narcotics section. So 5 different chiefs, I've seen what works and what doesn't. I see what empowers employees and what doesn't. I'm tossing out what doesn't. I'm going to use what does. I have a fantastic department. I'm proud of them. I'm proud of my daughters. I've got a big family. I've got one starting second year of medical school, and I've got one starting the 2nd grade. That's diversity, folks. 63 years in public schools in Fairfax County. I've got 21 more years. My kids go up to Fairfax County. I've got 6 seconds, and I'll thank you, and I hope I get your vote.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Stacy Kincaid, and I am a 26-year veteran of the Fairfax Sheriff's Office. I graduated from Langley High School in McLean, and I received my college degree from Frostburg State University. I interned with the Fairfax Sheriff's Office when in college, and that was the start of my career in law enforcement. After I successfully completed training at our academy, I began my work in the Adult Detention Center. And over the course of my career, I have worked in all 4 divisions, as well as worked in both administrative and operational capacities. I am currently serving in the rank of captain. Many people have asked how the Sheriff's Office differs from the police department. While we receive the same training at the academy as the Fairfax County Police, we then receive additional training which certifies us to perform the 3 core functions that are unique to the Sheriff's Office. Those core functions are managing the Adult Detention Center, providing courthouse security, and serving civil law process. We do those functions well. We run a model facility. In fact, our most recent successful national accreditation was announced just yesterday. We keep our courthouse, judges, and the 6,000 or so daily visitors safe. We serve civil process in a conscientious and fair manner. But all that is not enough in the 21st century. If we stand still, we are losing ground. So, how as sheriff will I move the office forward? First, Fairfax County is a very diverse county. The Sheriff's Office in Fairfax is the largest, so we must respect and reflect that diversity. As an elected officer, the sheriff is in a unique position to cultivate a close relationship with residents. As your sheriff, I will be out with community listening and learning. I believe in working collaboratively with residents to create safer communities. There's nothing more crucial to the success of a sheriff's office than the partnership with the communities we serve. I will establish a volunteer outreach team to recruit volunteers from ethnic communities. Failure to recognize and reach out to the community can foster resentment among residents and lead to a breakdown of trust. And our communities can help us better serve our inmates. Our business community can help train our inmates with the skills to become gainfully employed upon release and reduce recidivism. I will also work with our mental health communities so the jail does not remain the default healthcare provider for our vulnerable residents. Second, I have a long history of community outreach and collaboration with groups, both internal and external, of the Sheriff's Office. I was appointed the first occupational health and safety officer and peer support coordinator for the office. where I work with the medical community, the police and firefighters, other government agencies, and families to establish a program. I received the Outstanding Performance Award for my leadership. I also serve on the governing board to prevent and end homelessness. And I know the importance of finding permanent shelter for our homeless population, some of whom have served time in our jail. I've been recognized by the Sisters Network of Richmond for my support of breast cancer research in African American women. I am a graduate of Leadership Fairfax, and I'm also the recipient of the Distinguished Service Award, which is the highest award given by the Sheriff's Office. Finally, in this economy, the Sheriff has to make sure that the taxpayers' money is being well spent. As Sheriff, I will review contracts, processes, and practices to find efficiencies and savings. We are working now on upgrading our technology in the Adult Detention Center, and I expect that to lead to greater efficiencies. We are also in the process of implementing a kiosk system that includes video visitation that will allow for more frequent contact between an inmate and his or her family. It will also handle inmate requests for medical attention and a host of other capabilities that will make our jail run more efficiently. We have a stellar Sheriff's Office with outstanding professional employees. I pledge to continue the office's history of excellence while continuing to seek out and improve it wherever possible. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for any of these three candidates? You want to read your question? Okay.
You were elected, and the new rules proposed by the FCC do not go into effect. What action would you take regarding jail inmate telephone rates?
You see papers? Okay. Reverse order. Okay. Consequently, I am responsible for the oversight of our inmate programs section right now, and I'm also responsible for the inmate telephone contract. And I can tell you that when I do go into office, I will ensure that, and as I mentioned previously, we're not going to profit on the backs of our inmates. We're going to make sure that inmates, our inmate population, has the opportunity to contact and have interaction with their families, because it's a way for them to it helps reduce recidivism, and it also helps them while they are incarcerated. So regardless of that, whether or not it goes into effect, I will work hard to ensure that it's fair and equitable.
Okay. That's a very good question. Captain Hayes just basically said she was in charge of that program, where we apparently is the highest charged facility in Fairfax County. So if she wants to take credit for that program, I let her go ahead and do that. I don't think we have to be the highest. I've monitored jail recordings for 26 years. That's part of our investigative tool. I can tell you there's usually like about 30 seconds of business, and the rest of it can go as long as 10 minutes of pleasure calls. I'm not in favor of making pleasure calls to the inmates. I do believe they do need to contact their attorneys, their family members, to keep and restore their family members' home style going, whether it's for getting their medications. And I don't believe hours and hours of commissary credit to go ahead and speak to family members for going on nightly on it. I've listened to these jailhouse tapes for investigative purposes. The inmates know that we're listening. They get a recording I'm sure the captain can tell you, I forgot. They get a recording advising them that their conversations are being monitored. And I'm sure that we can develop a policy and a procedure of jail calls that are suitable to the inmates and to the county citizens. Thank you.
Ma'am, That is definitely a good question, and I think the question that we need to really clearly define is the word profit. In regards to where the monies went, or where they go, needs to go, they're not spent frivolously at all. I mean, all the money that's acquired as through that program is utilized for maintenance of equipment, replacement of current equipment that's malfunctioning, that needs updating. Bottom line is, if those funds don't come from there, who do you think they're going to come from? The taxpayer. So it's not a matter of trying to make additional money or anything like that. It's a matter of last time I checked, we all paid phone bills. I mean, so there's no difference there. Yes, the circumstances are different. However, if the money does not come from a source, unfortunately, it would be levied upon the taxpayers. And those, as a sheriff, you have a responsibility to minimize as much as possible the burden on your sheriff's department within reason.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any other questions? No other questions for these candidates?
I have a question. I feel like background checks and gun control might be an issue particularly important to Sully. Of course, we had an incident here several years ago, and of course, we've had students go to the Virginia Tech incident. So I was just curious, I guess, whether you all support background checks for guns, universal background checks for guns, especially since in our state there's a gun loophole, and whether or not you're a member of an organization like NRA that supports that or that is against universal background checks.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I definitely believe that a background check should be in place. The key factor there, which we not only saw last week, but we continuously see, is the lack of reporting when it comes to mental health. But that is the kind of the area that needs to be closed, and that is something that as sheriff, I would definitely look at working on closely with medical community, with other agencies reporting. There needs to be some means of checks and balances for people who are undergoing mental treatment in order to avoid that loophole. Nothing's going to prevent somebody from coming to Virginia if there's nothing on the record, nothing that says prevents that person from purchasing one, because legally they would be entitled to stop them. And as a sheriff, I would have that responsibility, not only me, but collectively. Every law enforcement chief and sheriff within Virginia should be working on that, because Virginia, a lot of times, that's where the firearms are coming from, Virginia.
Can I speak over here? And if that's this woman can't hear? Okay. Very good question. I support the Second Amendment. I think the founders of this country knew what they were doing when they decided to go ahead and add that as an amendment. The background checks I am in favor of for misdemeanors of crimes of violence and felonies. Other than that, I believe that citizens have a right to buy and purchase if they're law-abiding citizens. The loophole, I don't believe that these mass shootings are basically the responsibility of law-abiding citizens that are buying guns in Virginia. My whole platform in my website and for this whole campaign is mental health. Mental health is the problem with background investigations. We can't go ahead and find some way to record that and put that in our background checks. That's protected by the federal government. And until we do that, I am all for protecting the lives of soft targets throughout the United States. The only way we can do that is keep mentally ill people from being able to purchase and obtain firearms.
Thank you very much. Ms. Kincaid.
In reference to your question, I do support expanded background checks. As sheriff, our job is to enforce the law, don't make the law. In reference to the question, am I affiliated with any organization, and I'm assuming that it's probably the NRA that you're referring to. I do not belong to any organization of that magnitude. So that's my answer.
Okay, thank you. In reference to the time that we promised for the House delegate candidates, please join me in giving these candidates a hand.